Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the new subclass for the Arcane Vanguard, the Veridurge. This is a mod made by Saethos with their newest update here, and the Veridurge is a really fun subclass because it gives you an aura around your character with the Verdant Confluence, so whenever you cast a cantrip, you get a 10-foot radius around your character which becomes difficult terrain and can ensnare enemies. If you cast a spell, it becomes 17 feet, so you get a much larger area of effect. Really cool abilities here, and it's nature and kind of like druidic themed. You also get medium armor proficiency, which is a nice addition to this. You also get a lot of compatibility. Even the newest blade cantrips here by ZX10RX are included, Mr. Spells, and much more. Now, I would recommend if you're going for cantrips, I always like to have Mage Hand to throw healing potions or water bottles, and then also having things like Bone Chill are nice too to stop targets from receiving healing. Shocking Grasp is another good choice. And for the spells we'll be taking at level 1, it's hard not to take Command, one of the best spells in this game. And then we can also go with something like False Life if you wanted for some extra health. Armor of Agathis is the better option though to give you health and cold damage to attackers. Now we get a fighting style here. Now there's a lot of great choices here, like this will add your intelligence modifier instead of dex for armor class. This increases movement speed, this gives you different buffs and critical hit benefits. There's some for different types of weapons, but my favorite is the Ethereal Edge. So if you're using a finesse-based weapon, an attack will now have a range of 4.5 meters, which is nice, giving us extra range. I think that that's very good. But honestly, you can even go with the the extra mobility would be nice to be able to give yourself some extra movement speed to get in range to be able to crowd control enemies. Now with this, we also get access to the Resistance, Thorn Whip, and Primal Savagery. And we get the Cure Wounds and Entangle spells here. Or I guess it's from the Druidic list here. So Longstrider and Create Water are my two preferred choices here because this can double up cold damage and Longstrider's a great buff. If you have someone that already has Longstrider on your team, you can add in Bless or even the Entangle spell. And once we get to our ability scores here, I prefer to go high in Dexterity. With that Finesse weapon, we can actually do some pretty crazy stuff. And there's even the Fowler Alluve weapon that you can get in Act 1, which works perfectly here now. I also like to roll with 14 Constitution and 16 Intelligence. You can swap Dex and Con if you prefer, and 10 Wisdom and Charisma. And for skill proficiencies, I like to grab Persuasion, especially if you're the face of the party. And once we hit level 2 here, we get our Vanguard Stratagem. So you use Intelligence modifier for weapon attacks and damage rolls, so at this point we can start pumping up our Intelligence. We'll also get another choice in spell here, with Find Familiar being a great choice here. We also can get options for another choice, things like Bless or even Cure Wounds. And we get a Vanguard talent here, so this one makes them trade places with you if they fail a Charisma saving throw. I really like the Force Shatter, which if you do a weapon attack, you can break your concentration to deal additional damage. The Liberated spellcasting is fun. If you kill a creature, you can use your reaction to cast a cantrip immediately. And there's also some other choices here. If you prefer going with those, I've talked about them in other videos, so I don't want to drag this one out too long because there's a lot of great options. So I encourage you, if you find something interesting, you can try it instead of the options I give here. We also get Mirror Image, which is an amazing spell. And also, Mr. Spells gives you Frost Fingers, which is one that I'm actually going to take here because I think it's a fun spell. And since this does require you to have doesn't require you to have Mr. Spells, but most people that will be likely using that. Otherwise, go with Mirror Image. And we'll also grab from here, the Pass Without a Trace is a great choice because you can get with greater invisibility. Basically, you can succeed on stealth checks infinitely. It's kind of crazy. We're going to go with Spike Growth, though. This is just a really good for stealth-based builds. And the Socialite skills. This is going to add our Intelligence modifier, and I would recommend going with Constructed Argument for getting Persuasion checks equal to your Charisma modifier. It's a good choice. Once we get to level 4 here, we get another choice in cantrips. We're going to go with Minor Illusion there. And then we're going to grab a level 2 spell such as Mirror Image here. If you really want, Shadowblade is a choice. It's very powerful though, just be warned. And then we're going to continue on down through this list. I like to have Pass Without a Trace, but you can grab one of the other ones if you prefer having others. Level 4 feat, we're going to go with the Alert for that +5 to our initiative. Once we get to level 5, we get the Vanguard Spellweave, which lets us do a cantrip and a weapon attack. Pretty good stuff. We also then get at this level a choice in level 3 spells with things like Spirit Shroud if you have Mistress spells, Elemental Weapon being available, and even Counterspell, which is the obvious choice to take here because it's one of the best spells in this game. And then we also are going to go ahead with another choice here from something like Plant Growth being one of the better options because it's great crowd control. But if you like Moonbeam, you can take that. It's another good choice. And level 6, this gives us another choice in spell here. And I'm going to take Shadowblade here. It's just a great option. It is very overpowered, so if you don't want that, you can go with like Dragon's Breath or even Elemental Weapon. We'll then take for this leveled spell, Gust of Wind can kind of be nice for the pushback. At times, it's kind of a nice option. We get some more choices for Vanguard talents here. I like the Elemental Cascade, so when you cast a spell, it turns your weapon attacks into that damage type, which is really fun. But you can go with the Force of Arcana here, which will give you bonuses to your attacks. And the Student of War gives you benefits depending on the spells that you cast, which also can be a nice choice to go with. Level 7 gives us an enhanced Vanguard technique, so instead of whenever we cast a cantrip, we can do a spell and a weapon attack now per turn. Great stuff. It's a nice power spike, but not too over. Again, this mod's very well balanced. And we get level 4 spells here with things like Wall of Fire being a good choice. There's other options there. It's kind of blended in with the Mistress spells here, so you can grab other things if you prefer them. And we'll also go ahead with the Conjure Woodland Being, which is one of the best spells in the game. So we'll go with that. It can hold our concentration on spike growth for us. We'll also, at this next level here, take something like the Haste spell. You can grab Mage Armor if you like to go with that, but it's not my personal preference because we got medium armor proficiency. We'll also then go ahead here and we'll grab the Grasping Vine, which is actually a pretty good spell as they changed it on recent patches to be now a bonus action. It can grab enemies and pull them towards you. And for our feat, we're going to go with an ability score improvement on our intelligence. This is just, again, for our weapon attack rolls, spell casting, and it also gets added to our persuasion checks. Once we get to level 9, we get subclass features, Viridescent and Rebuttal. So whenever our Verdant Confluence is active, you can consume the Confluence to reduce the damage by a number equal to your intelligence modifier. When you do, the target will take piercing damage 1d10, and your Verdant Confluence becomes centered on that target. So they now have that aura, which makes enemies slow down in the area, and they'll take 1d6 piercing damage whenever they make an attack roll. Pretty cool option, because this now makes it crowd control around the enemy. Super sweet. We also get the Viridescent Requital here. Whenever your temporary health points from Primal Bastion are removed, you heal nearby allies for 1d6 health points. Cool stuff. And we'll also get access to one of the best spells in the game with Steel Wind Strike. This is insanely strong. You can attack 5 targets with a 6d10. This is from Mistress spell, so you do need that to be able to use the spell. Otherwise, you can go with one of the other choices. I have Steel Wind Strike here twice. But yeah, you can choose other spells if you prefer them. And then for these spells here that we get at level 5, it's really only like Greater Restoration, Mass Cure Wounds, Insect Plague there. So a few options. This one's an okay crowd control option. It's difficult terrain damage. Once we get to level 10, though, we get access to another cantrip here. And if you have the mind with these blade cantrips installed, the Static Blade and Blue Frost Blade are really fun. I'm going to take Static Blade, but if you don't have that, take Shocking Grasp. And then for the next level spell that we'll be taking here, I'm going to go with Expeditious Retreat there, because yeah, there's a lot of options, and I think it's nice to have the bonus action one there. And then we're going to go with another, I guess, Goodberry or Speak with Animals, Greater Restoration, or Mass Cure Wounds if you want some healing. We get another Vanguard talent here, which spell throwing is kind of nice, giving your melee spells a range of 4.5 meters. Kind of good, so it matches it with our main melee weapon attacks. Focus Shatter can also be good, because again, you get that additional force damage on breaking your concentration. Can be kind of cool. And Combat Acrobat's kind of good, because we will be spellcasting a weapon attack in the same turn, which will give us advantage on dexterity saving throws and checks until our next turn, and Momentum, which will give us increased movement speed. Level 11 gives us a Tactical Strikes. Once per turn, we can do an additional 1d4 weapon damage. Great stuff. We also get Blade Barrier and a variety of other level spells here. I'm going to go with the Blade Barrier, because it's a good choice for crowd control. And then we'll also take, I guess, Sunbeam or Wall of Thorns if you want some other choices for crowd control. Yeah, I'll be taking this to level 20 as well if you want. You can stop at level 12, because we're going to get everything basically we need. There's no real spells here. They're super, super important after we get Global Invulnerability here, unless you really wanted Hero's Feast. We can always replace a spell if you did. And then for this last spell here, I guess we'll go with Wall of Thorns, just because it's not often used. And we'll max out our Intelligence. Warcaster is another good feat choice, though. And once we hit level 13, we get Spellcutter. You have advantage on saving throws triggered by creatures you've attacked in your previous turn. We get some more choices and spells here, but again, we got pretty much everything that we need, so nothing super important there. We get another Vanguard talent, so we want to take the Student of War. Force of Arcana is also a nice option to go with too. We at level 15 get the Martyr of Sylvanas, which you can choose 3 targets. Each target gets 2 armor class, but for each target you selected, your own armor class is reduced by 1. This will be considered a cantrip and requires a concentration. Really cool ability here to buff up your team at the expense of yourself, and it's a net positive for everyone here. At level 16, we get a choice in spells, and you can go with a dexterity increase there if you wanted to. The Tough Feed for extra health also works great. Warcaster for the reaction Shocking Grasp, and advantage on spell saving throws. I also like the Dual Wielder feat, since we're able to use some different types of weapons with this setup. But it's not necessary. You can go with Fowler Louvre in your main hand, and actually we'll do the Dual Wielder. I think that looks really cool on this setup. Once we get to level 17, we just get some more health here. We're going to use our final feat for tough for extra health. 18 just gives us another choice in spells. I guess we'll take Dragon's Breath there for Mistress spells. The Vanguard's Protection is a really good choice too. As a bonus action, you can reduce damage by your team equal to your intelligence modifier, so -5. It's pretty useful. So yeah, you can use any of these other options here if you prefer getting something a little different. And actually, extra war, the extra attack war magic, probably the best choice to take at level 18. This one unlocked. I almost forgot about it, but use this one. It's the best. It per turn gives you another attack. Crazy stuff. So yeah, you get to slashing pretty good. And with haste, that can get crazy. We're also, for our final level, going to be taking the tough feat for that additional health for every level. And that just puts us up to plus 40 health at this point. Or at this point, level 20. And we get our capstone here, the Oaken Resilience. So you imbue yourself with the resilience of Earth, becoming resistant to all damage types. And you cannot become charmed or frightened. Furthermore, if you're damaged, the enemy will get reflected a 1d10 of piercing damage. And this is a 5-turn duration. And this is the Luna and Umbra outfit by Airedale on Nexus Mods. Now this equipment setup is really fun. It's not a typical build, but it works really well here because we can put Valor Aloof in our main hand here, which gives us access to the Shrieking Song, which makes enemies take a 1d4 of thunder damage on every attack. This is further augmented by our Marka Heshker here, which gives us the Kreska's Favor, and in particular we can take Bolts of Doom, which is going to give us lightning charges so that we get extra damage and is considered nature damage on all of our attacks. So I think this fits thematically, and it makes the blades look really cool, so I definitely recommend doing it this way. I also threw on the Dark Justiciar Gauntlets because these don't ever really get used in setups, and this gives us actually a bonus action use, which is kind of nice, as it's a necromancy spell, but it also gives us an additional 1d4 of necrotic damage, which is green, nature. That's my thought process there, and I don't normally get to use this item, and I love it. We also got the Helmet of Arcane Acuity to give ourselves something a bit more typical for a spellcaster build. This is obviously a really strong item. You can also go with something like the Haste Helmet in the early game if you wanted some movement speed. And the Cloak of Protection, really, you can use whatever you want there. Evasive Shoes, but you can also go with like the Disintegrating Nightwalkers in the early game for the extra step. And even something like the Helldusk Boots later on for a bonus action teleportation, which is kind of a nice option as well. I'm going to throw those on instead. Now for our rings, since we likely want to have a concentration, we can use the Strange Conduit Ring for an additional 1d4 of damage. And yeah, that's honestly nice because we can do both. We also get the Ring of Mental Impition here, so when a target fails a saving throw, they get Mental Fatigue. We can also pair this up, actually. I think I'm going to throw a Boots of Stand Reclaimer on. Act 1 item, but what's great about this is whenever we're using them, we can actually make enemies take Reverberation because we got easy ways to apply conditions with this build. And for our weapons here, I got Valor Aloof for the Shrieking Song for extra damage. And then we got the Lightning Charges, Spell Save DC, and a free cast of a spell and Chain Lightning, which we don't normally get access to. But honestly, Steel Wind Strike is like almost, honestly, pretty comparable in terms of strength for being a level 5 spell. It's crazy. We also get the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to our initiative here. And all these things together are pretty powerful in synergy. And there's our Verdant Confluence, really cool looking appearance there, sprouting ground whenever we summon in our Dryad there. And don't forget their Fallen Lover Boyfriend there. And you can always summon your Find Familiar too for a little bit extra. It can tank a hit for your team, and it can also be nice because it's also there to blind targets for you. But with our Shrieking Song, we have that active, which is going to also make targets take the Reverberation and get threatened there. And we got 33 armor class if we throw on the Mirror Image spell, which is something you can pre-cast before you get into a fight because it lasts for 10 turns here. But what's great is we can also create a surface around ourselves if we're able to cast a spell or a cantrip. So I like to grab a cantrip, or actually we're going to go with something like Wall of Thorns here. Blade Barrier, 2 great options, but Wall of Thorns fits this build so much better. So we're going to throw this up here, and I'm going to leave it right there. So this is now a new concentration. It creates the Entangling Vines, and then we create our Verdant Confluence here, which is then it grabs them and holds them in place. So yeah, we got everything firing off here. And you can also use the Verdant Confluence to do a few different effects here by giving advantage of Constitution saving throws and ground yourself or heal your allies. One good thing too is since we're like a melee attacker spellcaster hybrid, is we can use great crowd control options like Command Approach here, which lets them walk themselves into our aura here, and we can always upcast this, so that's another nice feature. So we'll use Command on all those targets there, and we're able to get, whoa! We got them all. I don't know what's happening there, but it worked. Yeah, it worked on the civilians too, oddly enough. I'm not sure why, but we'd always just, whenever they start approaching us, we can blast away with like a Mind Blast or something. But yeah, If the extra Vanguard technique attacks aren't working, you may have to toggle off the dual wielding because it may say that the cost has a two bonus action cost. But we can go ahead here with our attacks. 37 attack roll, critical hit. Actually didn't take them out though, because we got those 2 free attacks there. And our commands are working. Command's just one of the best spells in the game, especially when we have crowd control up because it doesn't require concentration. And then we can have our Dryad set up its concentrations. And what's crazier about this is whenever you have spike growth up, the enemy takes damage by how much they walk through it. So force them to walk towards you. Not only they end up taking the Fowler Alluve damage, but they're also going to get all the crowd control and the spiky Wall of Thorns, everything else that we are able to drop down on the enemies. And we have counter spell for whenever they try to do stuff like that against us, and we can always pop that away. And command just keeps taking damage. We also have the Woodwode here, which is funny because if you wanted to crowd control even further, we don't need to. I'm just going to skip its turn because it's even funnier to watch them keep walking through all this, taking damage. So we now have a ton of them right on us, which is great because we can use Steel Wind Strike here. And if we want to upcast it, we can deal additional damage. Just be mindful not to throw this attack anywhere that you personally don't want to go. It will hunt down targets, kind of similar to how a magic missile setup works, but your character's jumping around like that. It looks amazing. Honestly, one of my favorite spells, and that's added by Mistress Spells. It fits perfectly on here because it gives us a strong force attack there that looks really cool, bouncing around to multiple enemies. And then you can also teleport to the next to a target of Steel Wind Strike too, which is kind of cool. So if they lived, you could teleport your way there free. We don't normally get Chain Lightning, but we do have things like Sunbeam, which I can't cast right now, and I want to cast a high-level spell. So I'm going to use the Chain Lightning from the staff because it's included with the staff. 95% hit chance on this target here. And it's a nature-type spell, so I think it works perfectly because we also have all those lightning charge and psychic damage from our concentration. So, yeah, it hits really hard. And we have 1 target remaining here. Now, I could do a Vanguard technique and attack twice. We got the extra psychic and necrotic damage there. But I want to pop down a Grasping Vine here. I'm going to try and do some funny here. It's a spell that doesn't oftentimes get used, and it fits thematically. And I could go with a Raven here and attack it, but we're just going to let it do its thing. Our Dryad there always can reapply Spike Growth, which is pretty crazy. It's just going to fight the Tree Roots. That's a battle you're not going to win. And the Tree Root honestly got a really nice buff when our Patch 8 drops, so what it can do is it can do the Grasping Pull and just kind of pull itself back into the difficult terrain here and then entangle targets, which is kind of funny because then they're stuck there. And then we can go ahead with our attacks here. So I'm just going to Steel Wind Strike a single time, and I just love the look of this attack. Boom, there it is. So that is the Veridurge, Arcane Vanguard in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I hope you guys all have an amazing day.